Okay guys, we are back at it here after we made our dirt rock number 2. We're now looking at the texture phase of this process of making ridiculously cheap, easy, fast faux rock boulders for your landscaping and any other application that it makes sense to have. So what you want to do after you get that first batch of covered concrete over your dirt mound is you want to go ahead and check it out and get water on it. Concrete loves to get wet or be moist when it's curing. That gives it the ability to get hard. The slower the cure, the better the strength of the material. You also want to get rid of the popcorn, I call it, and that's all the little pieces of crumbly stuff. These are pretty good sized little chunks and stuff, and the texture coat is usually a lot thinner, and you could actually finish out this whole rock yesterday when we made it by before brushing it. As you saw in the brushing step, we simply took that same kind of brush, stippled it and worked it with a trowel, playing around with details. You can see I put in some details here with the trowel, and those are, I call those the big textures. And so you can actually just finish the raw concrete and then you can paint it. But we're gonna move past that and go to the step of showing a simple texture technique. So once you get the crumbolinas and the popcorn dialed in there and cleaned off, and give it another rinse. And so now it's getting harder and firming up and curing. And then when you put the texture coat on it, there's moisture inside the rock, the concrete rock, let's say, and that helps slow the cure. Okay guys, we are now stepping into the texture coat on our dirt rock. Like I said in the last session, we could have just sort of textured out the concrete just the way it was, and we probably would have been able to get a good result. But just want to talk to you a little bit about the texturing, because that allows more opportunities for color and textures, and smaller textures than the thick gravelly aspect of concrete, because the mortar mix we use has not got any pea gravel in it. So that's all concrete. The mortar mix we're going to make is going to have mortar being Portland cement and sand, basically, in its most simplest basic forms. And we're going to be taking a look at that as we mix it up. But in the meantime, come on over here, Daniel, take a look and I'll explain what we have here. We have 3 buckets, okay, and this bucket here is the same stuff you can buy at Home Depot. It's base coat stucco. This is what you start off with, and then they have color packs that you put in to mix up to do stucco. So it's a cementitious product, and so that's a nice white that we can just dust in there. This color here is actually fast set mortar mix that we use, and we add that to concrete to speed up the setting time a lot of time, and it's got a creamy color compared to the white. And it's nice to have a cream color, because a lot of the rocks here in East County have that sort of as a base color. This color over here is a different thing, kind of a brick red, and this is something that's for stucco. It's called fog coat. A little more of a challenge to acquire. Again, you don't have to use this, but there's color hardeners you can get from Brick Form that add color, and again, this is a cementitious product. And so this we can dust in, and you can go ahead and back up, Daniel, and look at the rock over next to it. The first rock we did, we used those colorants and we dusted them in. You can see the brick red, and then the base coat where the white is. There's a little regular Portland cement, so you can just use, see it's crumbly. You can use regular old Portland, and that's a different color. It's kind of a greenish kind of a hue. And in the process of finishing this down with brushing, troweling, you can see how we scraped off some of that, but it gives a very nice mottled effect. And this one's ready for paint, basically. And so you can go ahead and take a look from farther away. We're going to be using the same coloring system we have with dirt rock number 1 to finish out this area of these dirt rock 2 and kind of 3 in a sense, that little guy. So we're going to go ahead and do that. we're gonna go mix it up, and we're gonna show you how the very simple process of mixing up mortar for this texture coat is done. All right, so we're gonna go mix right now, and we'll bring you on over. All right, if I can hold the camera steady, we are starting the mixing process of the texture coat, and we're using a product called Spec Mix, but any mortar will do. So you just want to get I like pre-mixed stuff. You can also make a mortar mix just from using sand and Portland cement, but I just like to get a bag and it's all done. I don't have to worry about, shovelfuls and that kind of thing. So Daniel's going to be mixing this up. He's done I don't know how many thousands of these, and we want to start off by misting the bucket, and we're just going to do a 5-gallon bucket. We can use the mixer right there behind Daniel for Spec Mix. It does stick to the walls, and it's a little more of a pain than the heavier, more thick concrete when you're using that. We're putting in that product called Sika Admix. It's an acrylic admix because we want it to stick to the surface that's already gone off of our dirt rocks 1 or 2 and 3. So we have a circular drill with a mixing tip, which is rather worn out. They have drills that have 2 of those, and they're very thorough and very good, but I've just been using this simple basic technique for a long time, and it's good enough, So just your regular electric drill with that mixing thing. Daniel's putting in the mortar mix. If you can have someone else pour while you're mixing, that's kind of nice, but we don't have to. You just have to recognize the bottom of it will be dry, and so getting it integrated into the water is a little more time is required for that. So we're trying to estimate how much we need, and so I think in 3/4 of a bag or thereabouts. Again, that's a 60-pound bag. We'll see how far we can get when we're using that to plaster over the dirt rocks to again give it that texture we like. So it's just spinning it around, and he's looking down there to see how the water content is. So he might change that if it looks too dry or too runny. Add a little more powder to thicken it up a little bit. I've never known the ratios or cared. I just let the material tell me what it needs. And so we can tell it's a little runny, so we're just gonna add some more. But we also want to get more of the material mixed in there, so you do it in little incremental steps. See that process going on now. Just move it up and down to integrate the dry powder that's on the top down to the bottom of the bucket. Again, you can use cement mixers if we're doing a bigger job and need more material. Just use a cement mixer like we have in the back there. So we're getting closer to our quantity. Again, you got to keep it liquid enough for it to mix. This batch is going to be a little thicker, sort of like pancake batter. If you're doing the blow-on stuff with the hopper, that needs to be really runny because it's just a simple gravity-fed process of using the hopper and a compressor. The key with all of these is you've got to keep your texture coats slow in the slow cure process. You do not want to have them go off fast. If you do, the material will be weak. It won't be bonded well to the cold joint, as it's called. So you really got to make sure you keep those moist. So either with a hose, with a nozzle, you can mist it. We've done that, and that allows it to be shiny. You kind of want to get it shiny, and that tells you it's wet. Obviously, too much water, it'll run or fall off stuff. So it's just, you just keep an eye on it as it's curing and starting to cook. So we're seeing the process here. We do little chunks at a time, and so We'll let Daniel finish up here, and then we'll move it on down and get ready to throw it on a rock. All right, so now we got our mud. Time to put it on. Okay, we got our mud mixed up, our mortar mix again, and it's set right here. And so we're gonna now start putting it on our dirt rocks number 2 and 3, okay? Notice I've got some pump spray water bottles. That's gonna help me slow the cure, as I mentioned before. You wanna keep these thin texture coats cooking off slow. If they go off fast, they're weak, they won't even stick that good, and they become kind of useless. You have to like power wash the whole thing off and then reapply them, paying more attention to keeping that cure speed slow. It's in the low 90s. It feels like 120 to me, but warm out here in East County, San Diego. But we're gonna put the mortar mix on right now. And so we have our colors, which will come on after. And so let's get it on there and get this process started. Okay, we got our mortar mix up here. It's got a nice consistency. It's kind of wiggly. You're trying to make a hamburger. It's a little, you know, gooier than that. Kind of let it flail out from your fingertips. Kind of lift it up and let the thing splay out that way. I want to remember I got some texture in there that I made, so it's good to keep an eye on that. Try not to get poked by the stupid yucca plant, which wants to cause pain, so we will avoid that. There's a spot underneath this rock that didn't get quite covered because we moved this whole rock, so I'm gonna build that up a little more. Make sure that's got coverage. So you can see I got just a little bit on there. Again, this is fast, easy peasy. We're just trying to do, you know, you're putting icing on the cake. That's all you're doing. It's plastering is what the stucco guys call it. All that brushing is what helps this stuff stick. And that's a good thing. We sprayed the rock earlier with a hose, but it's been a little while. But I kind of want this to go off faster so we can show you the process. Some of this is very thin down here, which is totally fine. I can feel my back talking to me, so try to attend to that. Remember, we got that texture stuff in there a little bit. Doesn't have to be all perfect. Remember, this is easy, fast, cheap landscape boulder. That's what we're aiming for here. There's all kinds of texturing techniques with stamps. The spray-on stuff makes a texture, which we see in that rock. You can also build up areas if you do want to have things bigger and taller. Like maybe I want to make that tip a little higher. I can just do that in this step. That's one of the nice things about doing a mortar texture coat. You can modify things and add the kind of shaping if you didn't get it in the first step of just the bulk shape with the concrete. So I'm thickening that up a little. This is maybe 35, 40 pounds. What do you think, Daniel? Was it a full bag? It wasn't a full bag, so how much of a bag was it, would you say?
80%.
So it's almost a full batch. He said 80%, so the buckets are pretty heavy, and he carried it down because he's a stud. And Daniel's helping me keep doing this even though I'm 66. And it's not the same as when you're younger. You're not the same. So God bless my boy Danny boy. So and he's helping me with a lot of these videos and stuff too. Having it rough and stuff is not a bad thing. So it's pretty funky boogie right now. Okay, so I just plastered that on. The stuff is going off instantly where it's thin, like there. So I'm gonna move over to the back side. Finish this part out a little bit. Got this dirt rock number 1. We did a little more work on that, filled in this bubble hole from the first stuff. Because I took the rock off and tipped it over and rinsed it out to just show how easy it is to do the dirt rock process. Made a little gap right there. So. All right, see that's already scraping. Excuse me. So I'm add more there. All right, so we got enough stuff on there. Now I'm going to get some water on it to slow the cure. These spray bottles are the best ones I found out there for pump sprayers. So this is again slowing the cure on this stuff. Because you want your stuff you're adding to be able to stick. One thing to remember, if you have stuff on your hand and you go to pump this and you get the sand down in there, it'll wreck the sprayer. It won't work as good. I'm not too concerned about getting sand in there. I mean, yeah, grit. Now you just dusting. We're just doing a little crop dusting. I'm focusing on that little spot with that color. Right? Doing the cream, which is again just the fast stuff, fast set cement. Now that's going to start to suck the water out of our very simple texture coat. So we want to make sure that we're staying on top of it. You can see the powder is still wet, but it goes dry in those other areas. It's good to wear a mask. We have a little bit of a breeze, so that's kind of cool. I also hold my breath. So I'm kind of putting it on the outside. We have white over there. So I think I'll throw a little more on that side. And you can see from the dirt rock number 1 that our treatment of the texture coat is going to scrape off some of the color. So it's okay to have a good amount on there. So I'm gonna get some water on here that binds the cementatious coating. You can back up, Daniel, to get an overview. Again, this is the same stuff we used on our dirt rock number 1 that we're using here, so we're gonna have similar colors. See, the water gets in there, and that's now making that live. So it's gonna start to set, which is good, and it binds to the old surface of the concrete, and that brushing is what helped us get that the way we want it. That has a little brown or brick, so I'll just smash that in there. Boom, easy. I like that little piece. Let's give it a different color. Excuse me. So I'll try to make it so I don't drop sand in my spray bottle. All right. Now I'm dousing it fairly well. All right. So now we have extra mud, but that's okay. So you can, we're gonna let this cook, and then come back and we'll start troweling and brushing it. I just remember the last thing I wanted to do on these rocks was throw dirt in it, just to show you what you can do. So I'm gonna grab all this funky stuff and just put that in there. The more ruggedy, weird, textury stuff that you get in there, the better. It also does a little to color it. And a lot of the rock out here has taken in the high iron content of this geography, the lands out here. And if you give it a good throw, it puts things in, it pits it. So just showing you, you're giving yourselves a texture, fast, easy. Little holes, pits, that's really cool. I want to get all that stuff I did into it, so I'll throw some stippling in here. That helps get some of the little dirt clods and the iron color of the dirt in here. We're still coming back with the brush, finish it out, but it has to firm up before we can do that. So when you spray it with a hose, that will clean out any dirt, which isn't cement, obviously. All right, I'm liking it. All right. Get mean, throw it in there. Don't be afraid. All right, cool. So we have our three colors, and we have the gray, which is the mortar as it is, and we have a dirt color. So that's 5 colors essentially. Cement color, brick, fast set, which is a cream, base coat stucco. By 80 pounds for, I don't know, $9, 10 pounds. It'll last you years. I bought one bag and it's been years. I haven't used it up because it's just a very thin texture coat that we're trying to do on this. So we're gonna let this cook a little bit, and then we'll catch up on the finishing out of this as it firms up. But we gotta wait a little bit for that to happen. So I'm gonna go get in the shade and sit in a chair. Okay, we have had about 24 minutes transpire since we put on our texture coat. Again, it just troweled on, plastered on, like putting icing on a cake, no big deal. We have the CCAD mix in there, so it helps it adhere to this. Cold joint is the idea wherever you're putting new mud on something that's set already. And the upper part here has been in the sun, so you hear the sound of my trowel a little bit. It's scrapey, so that's good. Down here, I can tell that it's still a little bit soft because it's not in the sun. You want to have a brush. This is in drywall section of a box store or whatever. I like these. There's a lot of different rock guys that have fatter ones, bigger ones. This one has done the job, you know, for thousands of square feet of faux rock, I would say, over the course of my career, and this is just the one. I did try other ones with little handles, and I sort of bash it and texture with stippling and stuff. But this one is good. It's good for cleaning up stuff, and then it does do a good job just finishing out stuff. The beauty of brushes is you get a really cool texture, but you gotta pick the right time to affect the faux rock mortar mix to get the benefit of this. If you go too soon, it'll have streaks, kind of like you saw when we texturized the concrete to make sure that the next coat would stick well. So if you go too fast, the mud will tell you. That's what's cool about concrete work, including mortar work. It tells you if it's too soft or it's too firm. So you want to pay attention to that. It's a key element. It also is different. This has been in the sun cooking. This hasn't been down here in the shade. So I'm going to leave that for the moment. And then you want a margin trowel. This was super pointy at the beginning. The less tools I got to do the job, the better. Some rock guys like having like a whole kit of tools. I just like to have the simplest, fastest, easiest approach. Some of the chunks of mortar, they got on the existing rock and they cooked off real fast, which is fine. So we're just going to brush that off. A little bit in here, so I'm going to brush that. On the back portion here, I'll be a wussy and use this to protect my knees. This little feathered area that's between dirt rock number 1, again, it's in the sun, it's in the shade, so see, I'm still able to sort of burnish it in there. I'm digging out that back termination point, if you will. But it's got a good cure to get the brushing effect. This is so cool. It's so fast to see the rock just come alive. It's just so amazing. We have the dirt we threw in. Excuse me. We have the base coat, a little bit of the mortar mix. Again, these are not specialty items. They're very basic, very simple. You get quote-unquote faux rock mixes. They're going to cost you more. And if you want to do that, great, no problem. So I'm giving it just a gentle scrape. I want to get rid of trowel marks if I see them. So I'm just gently doing that and then brushing it and watching for the brush marks. We don't want brush marks because that kind of betrays what we're doing. If it's still wet, you can stipple. I want to get a good expansion joint. And that takes the forces of these two things working opposite each other and cuts down on the chance of there being a crack that comes out in the middle somewhere, not right here where you want it. You want the cracks to go where you want them to go. That's what concrete guys will tell you. Concrete crack. Yes, it does. All right, so I'm pushing it down, trying to get some of our dirt in there a little bit. And I'm watching this and I'm looking at how it's responding to my brushing. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Nothing special. These dirt clod pieces and little debris will pop out of there. The brush just takes and gets rid of all kinds of weird stuff, trowel marks. See, look at that. Those will obviously rinse out real easily when we get to the phase of cleaning this up before we're going to paint it. But look at this awesome texture. Just from throwing some dirt. You saw me just fling the dirt into this thing. Again, getting that expansion joint good down in there. All this will be filled up with dirt, so it's going to be underneath. So we're in pretty good shape. Down below here, we want to pull all that out before we paint. So I'm going to move back here and save my back a little bit. A lot of times when you're making rocks and stuff, you can start to see when you're just troweling it on, it kind of lends itself to some cool little onion peels. And little things that sort of you want to pay attention to, and then why not go ahead and use them? Add that to the fake rock look. See how that pulls off some of the colorant? Part that's dirt plus the brick red thing. Look at nature to figure out how to do cracks. I've looked at it and studied it, and so I've got sort of a formula. And if you look at my rocks, you can kind of go, yeah, that's a Dave rock. But I try to get it to just look natural for East County San Diego rocks, because that's what is all everywhere. So this is all brushing very nicely. It's firm enough where I'm not making big streaks. I didn't get anything covered over there, but I don't care, because that's on the back side and dirt could fill that in. Obviously plants grow everywhere, so that's no problem. But look at the way the troweling just made these weird, cool things that are, they look like the real deal. Just by thrashing and throwing stuff down, going back and forth, I'm looking for the streaks from the brush. Really cool. Dirt throw was cool. I don't do that on my professional jobs because it's just another step and then I'd have dirt everywhere. So we just used the fog coats and then come back with a paint thing. So I want to get a little more texture on there. This was that crack you guys remember. Isn't that amazing? So easy. If you want to power wash your texture coat, not a bad idea, especially if you're using release powders. You really need to do that. All this irregularity in here, remember, it's a rock. It's just a rock. Who cares? It's got a little crack, so nice little detail. I'll use that little thing that just showed up. I don't remember that specific detail, but as I get down and rest my weary bones, we look at all this really cool texture. There was no stamping here. Again, cheap, fast, easy rocks. No stamping, just pasted it on there, plastered it on there. You're making a cake, right? This is still, this down here is, see, that's still totally pliable. So that's in the shade, and that up there is already cooked. So this is still going off, so you have to pull back, unless you're doing stamping or something, but up here it's firmer. So I'm okay with it. Remember, we filled in this little patch where the rock went underneath, because dirt rock number 1, we went ahead and tipped it all the way out and I rinsed it out, which meant I could actually move this rock somewhere with a dolly for sure, and then take all the dirt that I had used to make it and then just pack it up and make another one. So you can duplicate your efforts. So now I'm stippling because this is still too wet. Stippling. So nice big divot, if you will, from the dirt, flinging the dirt. I love this look. I think it's extremely effective. Remember, we had that detail in here. I don't even have to really do much. I could just leave it alone because it's looking pretty cool. Just get a little deeper, a little more shadowing. All right, so I'm going to move around over on this side. We'll move my tired old bones. And these things are really painful if you get stuck with them. Daniel he took one of them out of there that was in the way, so we took it out. But I like plants. I don't want to kill plants. So now we're cleaning out the bottom, just bringing it all the way down. It's all going to get backfilled. Remember, you get that bottom edge below grade. Look at that. Unbelievable. Is that a rock or what? That is so cool. Now we power wash or rinse this off, all the dirt particles, which obviously aren't going off, that aren't secured into the matrix or the coating of the texture coat, then some of the color will come out from underneath the fog coats that we put in there. I'm really digging this rock. It is so cool. Wow. Gonna take and do my little thing here. Didn't have to, but that kind of ties into this rock a little bit, but didn't have to. Remember to look at the 5 keys to effective fake rock construction, which is part of this course. Keep referring back to the ideas behind that. The rule of thirds, balance, composition, avoiding symmetry. There's some of that base coat coming out, so that's in there. And that's the white. Again, these are all getting painted, so. All right, Daniel, why don't you back up and we'll take a look at the overall dude. I like it. I think it is the bomb. So I'm gonna clean up this little extension. Remember that got undercut, so we'll clean that up a little. And all this will be back filled again. Got some crumbliness there. Get that joint deep down dig. So then this will be able to move independent of this one. Get that gap opened up. It's an expansion joint is what you're doing. So, wow, I like it. The next step is going to be taking one of those little pump sprayers, and we're going to spray this and get it nice and wet. It's nice to do it in like when the sun's going down. It's not even on this. It's just getting a little bit of that. But I'll even use a whole hose with the mixture and just rinse everything we did on the mortar coat if it's gotten firm enough to where it won't wreck the shape or cause a problem and stuff. So, but our little hand pump sprayers will just flood these things and then let it cure. And then the next time, or the next step would be to rinse this off with the hose and get all the dirt particles out of here, which will create more texture because we're hitting it with the brush, and then they're ready for paint. So, we're dialed in. So the next process will be painting these, and we're also going to be looking at the rebar approach. So keep on trucking. Okay guys, we finished up basically everything that has to do with the dirt rocks. Remember, we shaped out the dirt in the shapes of boulders and rocks. We did a first one here, second one here and here. So it's like 2 and 3, you might say. And so we're now gonna these are just about ready to paint. We just need to do a little power wash to get some of the dirt stuff on that we threw on there, and then they'll be ready for paint. So the next thing we're gonna be looking at is the vast way all my rock work has been done on swimming pools and larger features, and that's rebar construction with a burlap on the inside to stop the cement from falling through, and chicken wire on the outside on the vertical areas. Don't really need it on the top, but if you're just folding over 8 inches, you don't worry about it and it's fine. But we're going to go ahead and move from the dirt rock now to the rebar structures in faux rock that can be all really any size you wish. So we'll move off this way. I'm going to pick